Well, it's day 2 of the World Swimming Championships in Budapest, and I'm delighted to say that I'm joined once again by Karen Pickering and John Hunt, who are poolside at the Duna Arena. And guys, we just heard, just after 5 o'clock, James will be narrowly missing out. But there are other options for Great Britain tonight, aren't there?
Yeah, there are indeed, Steve. Of course, Ben Proud will come very, very shortly in his 50-metre fly final against Caleb Dressel. And Thomas Chicon, a brilliant star of Italian swimming as well. He's an emerging talent. We're just watching those, Steve, the first semi-final of the women's 100-metre breaststroke. In the second semi-final, in a few moments' time, Molly Renshaw goes. But Benedetta Pilato, the 17-year-old Italians, just won the first semi-final in a rapid 1:05.88. Karen Pickering with me, and Benedetta, remember, she's world record holder over the longer distance, Karen, and sadly was disqualified from the Olympic Games. So great to see things going well for her.
Yeah, it is really good. You know, I watched her in the heat and thought she looked a little bit pedestrian. You know, it wasn't a great swim, but thought perhaps she's just really working towards the 50 metres breaststroke here. But she absolutely meant business in that semi-final and was the comfortable victor in that race.
And Steve, the thing is that first semi-final was not particularly quick. She went in 65.88, but lots of other runners were 66 seconds and slower. And Molly Renshaw's got a 66.21 personal best. She goes in a minute, and she's got a chance here of getting into that final. So,
Karen, you've been world champion. What do you reckon Molly Renshaw's chances are here? Because she had a stop-start season, hasn't she? She hasn't been in the water all the time. Do you think she can get into this 100-metre final? Of course, her better event is the 200 in it, but she has shined in this before.
Yeah, she has. I thought she looked pretty solid this morning in the heat. She was about half a second outside of her best, but she looked strong in the closing stages. I thought she looked pretty high and powerful through the water. A couple of the other swimmers, actually Benedetta Pilato was one of them. I thought looked a little bit sluggish, and Lily King as well, the Olympic champion and a swimmer that has really dominated breaststroke swimming for the last 4 or 5 years. I thought she looked a little bit sluggish this morning, so certainly is opportunity for Molly to step up and get through to that final.
What do you think it's going to take, Karen? Sounds like the door's open a little bit. What sort of time do you think she's going to have to post to get through?
She's going to have to do a low 66, so on or around her best time to be in with a shout.
It strikes me, John, that America just own this event. Every single Olympics you seem to go to, it's just a different female breaststroker from America that seems to win the title.
Yeah, well, you're quite right, Steve. Lily King, of course, winner of the last 2 World Championships. She's about to come out onto the poolside now. She's in lane 6 next to Molly Renshaw. And it's worth bearing in mind, Lydia Jacobi, the Olympic champion, is not here. Neither is the Olympic silver medalist, the South African Tatjana Schoenmaker. So there's a real chance, Karen, for someone to step up here.
Yeah, and you know who should have a little mention who's made it through to this final? Ruta Melataiti, a decade on from when she won the Olympic title in London as a 15-year-old. She was training down in Plymouth at that time with her coach John Rudd, who's out here with the Irish team, and she's made a comeback, and at 25 has got herself through to the semi-final.
I thought Ruta was a long time retired. How many years was she out the sport?
It's been a few. I think she's probably been retired maybe 3 or 4 years.
She's, Karen, after putting your feet up
Time
for
flies.
4 years, can you imagine trying to get into those 5:30 starts in the morning again?
Trying to get into those racing suits again.
She still holds the European record, Steve, at 64.35, set in Barcelona nearly 10 years ago. So, she was brilliant, wasn't she? And, of course, just to make you feel old, Steve, she split Yulia Efimova and Alia Atkinson in the Kazan World Championships as well, with the silver medal there. We're going back a long time with Ruta, even though she's still only 25.
Well, I'm crossing fingers here, John, in Salford. Just to let you know, it's raining outside here. I'm sure it's about 35 degrees there, but I'm crossing fingers that Molly Renshaw, whilst not expected, can get through to this final for tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Steve. I think the expectation is that she won't do this, but there's a little half chance if she can find, as Karen said, her very best form, that she can. It'd be brilliant if she, within the last 25 metres, if she's within hailing distance of some of these swimmers, because she's a great finisher. Lane 1 is the 15-year-old Estonian, Efimova. Ruta Melataiti, lane 2. Anna Elent of Germany, only 20, lane 3. They're so young in this semi-final. Tang of China, she's only 18. She was rapid in the qualification. She's lane 4. Annie Lazor, age 27, the oldest athlete in this event. She's next to Lily King. Lily King, the dual world champion. Molly Renshaw, lane number 7. She's right underneath us now with that red cap of Great Britain, and she's alongside Yu of China, the 23-year-old who's gone off very, very quickly. So this first length of the pool, if Molly can just stay with them, Karen, it might be a big if.
Yeah, absolutely. She just has a much slower stroke rate than the sprint breaststroke swimmers who power up and forward much more quickly than she does. She has a beautiful glide on the front of her stroke. At the 50-metre mark, she turns in 7th place, but this is now where she needs to make her move, where her smooth and endurance stroke really comes into its own.
Yeah, she was 6/10 off the 3rd-placed athlete at the one and only turn in the race, and now this is the vital stage of the race for Molly Renshaw. She's got Lily King in her sights, and Molly is finishing off well over towards the middle and far side of the pool. Tang, Elent and Ruta Melataiti swimming really well. I think Molly Renshaw's gone past Lily King. Also there is Lazor. This is a bunch finish, and Molly Renshaw's 5th to touch in this semi-final. Elent won it from Tang, so a young German there stormed into the final. Molly Renshaw 106.39. That's close to her personal best, and that's what we were hoping for. Steve, there's a possibility she's got through to the final. We think she's in 8th place, and we'll just get that confirmed. And Annie Lazor's been disqualified, so that is definitely confirmed now that Molly Renshaw's made the world final, Steve, in the 100 metres, when the 200 is her event.
That's absolutely fantastic for her, and also for Great Britain as well. And it struck me, John, she came back like an absolute freight train on that last 25 metres.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you what, Steve, Lily King's only just crept in as well. Lily King's only made it through there because her compatriot, Annie Lazor, was DQ'd. So, you know, Lily King, the dual world champion, into the final by the skin of her teeth. Molly Renshaw confirms 7th quickest now. That's great news for her, Steve. Brilliant.
Do you think, Karen, that's exactly what this Great Britain team needed? A little shot in the arm there. Great semi-final performance after James Wilby missed out on that medal.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think James's swim was a good swim, and unfortunately 4th was probably, you know, the best he could get in that kind of company. But and I'm sure that's had a good impact. But races like that Molly just did, you know, sometimes you just got to grind it out. It isn't her best event. She knows she's going to be off the pace at 50. She knows she's going to be fighting through in the closing stages, and she also knows her best event's still to come later in the week. So, you know, she ground out. That swim there was just outside her best time, and that's certainly a really good example to set for a lot of the other swimmers, because, you know, the races don't come easy. You don't just get in and get the results. Sometimes you just got to, you know, when you're not necessarily feeling your best, or it's not your best event, you just got to, like I said, grind it out.
Have we become greedy as, you know, as watchers of British swimming? Because, of course, when they have their best Olympic Games ever, you know, less than 12 months ago with 4 gold medals, have we come to expect too much from the team when we see 4th places?
Well, possibly, Steve. Yeah, possibly. But we know we keep these specific circumstances are very unusual, aren't they? As the men's 100-metre breaststroke victory ceremony is about to take place. Adam Peaty ordinarily would just be coming out, wouldn't he, to get yet another gold medal round his neck. But he's not here, neither is Duncan Scott, and neither is Kathleen Dawson, who in the 100 back would have been right in the mix for the gold medal here, judging on what happened earlier on as well. So they're 3 massive misses. It's like Liverpool being without their 3 stars, Steve, isn't it? You know, you're not going to win anything without your really top performers, and it's now left to those that are here to try their level best. So far, nearly 2 days in, it has been a decidedly mixed bag. More negative than positive, I think it's fair to say. But look, early days yet, and some really good swimmers to come.
Yeah, you had to go there with the football, didn't you, with Sadio Mane leaving in the last couple of days. But thanks for that, John. But let's just reflect a little bit on last night then. I mean, because we had the men's 4x100. You mentioned Duncan Scott, the British record holder for the 100 free, didn't go in that event. But the British team managed to break their national record. So that's got to be looking good for Paris in a couple of years' time.
It really does. I mean, had he been in that quartet, they would have won a medal. I think, that was inevitable. So he was a big loss. And I think to just get on the podium, and for a relay as well, that's 4 swimmers that take a medal away from here, and it has such an impact and such a ripple effect. So it's a shame that the swimmers, particularly that we're missing at these championships, have such an effect on the relays as well, because obviously that impacts more than just their own individual performances and just their own what they do for the medal table. So their loss is huge. It's not just 2 swimmers that we're losing, if you like. So I think that those guys, they stepped up, and it was a massive shame that they just didn't manage to do enough to get the medal yesterday.
Thanks for that, Karen. Well, let's go to Russell Fuller, who's got a result for the Queens for the doubles final.
Yes, the doubles was involving the Olympic and Wimbledon champions in Nikola Mektic and Mate Pavic, and Lloyd Glasspool of Great Britain playing alongside Harry Heliövara of Finland. And it's been won in a deciding match tiebreak by 10 points to 6 by Mektic and Pavic. But Glasspool and Heliövara are having a terrific run this year and aren't far off the automatic qualification places for the end of season ATP finals as things stand. The men's singles champion is Matteo Berrettini. He beat Filip Krajinovic 7-5, 6-4 in the final, and I've just been talking to the champion.
Really emotional. My whole team was there. My dad was there. They were there when I got my surgery. They were there where I was struggling to hold my racket, because I didn't have any strength in my hand and anything. So it feels really special. Maybe more special than last year, because I was able to defend the title, and a lot of emotions, but that's the beauty of the sport, I guess.
You've barely lost a match on grass since you have been installed as the second favourite for Wimbledon, at least in the UK. Does that sit comfortably with you?
In a way, yes. In a way, it's tough to think about it. I'm pretty, I would say, humble guy. I think always I take a match by match. I know how tough it is, to have a long run in a slam. Best of 5, all the players are giving their best to be in the next round. So also last year it wasn't easy, but I believe I can do it. Yeah, that's for sure. I believe that I can have a long run, hopefully longer than last year, but for sure it's not going to be easy.
Okay, back to the swimming any moment, but first let's go to Henry Moran. I believe there's been a wicket at England versus Netherlands one day international.
There has. England chasing 236 from 41 overs, are now 168 for 2. We saw Jason Roy dismissed in the 70s earlier on, and now Phil Salt has departed for 77 from just 54 balls. Played really nicely, scored a century in the last match. He looks to be in supreme form. And David Milan and Owen Morgan are now at the crease as England chase down that target. 68 runs required from a little under 19 overs.
Lovely. Thank you, Henry. Let's go back to John Hunt and Karen Pickering in Budapest for the World Swimming Championships. Karen, just looking forward to the most key races of the evening from a British point of view. Of course, we got the Olympic champion in the men's 200 metres freestyle, Tom Dean, going. And then, of course, prior to that, Ben Proud, a surprise fastest qualifier, would you say, in the men's 50 butterfly?
I think it's fair to say that was a little bit of a surprise, because when you see Caleb Dressel's name down in an event, you're sort of inclined to make him the favourite for victory. But he looked a little bit vulnerable. He looked shaky in the relay and the 100 metres in his lead off. The swimmers were really coming back at him in the closing stages of that leg. And Ben had a superb swim to take the top spot going into this final. But of course, he is the world champion from 2017 in this pool. He likes this pool, and I remember he had a few issues with his finish and his start in the heats and the semi-finals then, and in the final absolutely nailed it to take the victory. So I think he's good on the big occasion like that. Of course, he's in the centre of the pool, so it will be nerve-wracking, because you just cannot afford to make the tiniest of any mistakes on a 50 metres.
And John Hunt, what do you make of Tom Dean's chances in the 200 free? Of course, he is the Olympic champion. He beat his teammate Duncan Scott last year at the Olympic Games into silver place. How tough is it going to be for him to back up that Olympic gold medal with a world gold?
Yeah, in paper, straight after an Olympic year, I would have thought pretty tough. But where I'm enthusiastic about Tom is the way he's dealt with all the newfound fame, if not the fortune side of things. He seems to have really embraced it. And Karen, I love the way you spoke to him yesterday. You came back and, apart from the detail of what you talked about, his demeanour was really good, wasn't it? He's a very young man still, but he seems to be in a really good place.
Yeah, he's very calm and confident. He knows what he's doing. He's experienced. So, can tell that he was just holding something back. He knows that, when you really pick up the races in the closing stages, you get the fatigue, the mental and the physical fatigue of putting yourself through that. And so he's just biding his time. But he's got some pace on him. I mean, that split he did in the freestyle relay was rapid, sub 47. So he's got some speed there in his legs.
Why is it, John, that Karen always seems to find a way onto poolside to talk to all the handsome swimmers? Well, wait, there's a pattern developing here.
Don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, just to mark everyone's card, Tom Dean, the Olympic champion, 200 freestyle, he's going to be going in his semi-final around 6:15 this evening. But the nerves are starting to build for me on this men's 50 metres butterfly. Ben Proud, I mean, in no world would you think it's possible for him to beat Caleb Dressel. But John, it's going to be an absolute dogfight here, isn't it? Because it isn't just Caleb Dressel in there. It seems absolutely stacked to me, this 50 butterfly.
Well, I'd agree with that. Caleb Dressel, just to make a point, seems to be underperforming so far this games. He is, in theory, as much as 4/10 quicker than Ben Proud at his best, but he so far hasn't found that form. You're right to mention the others here. They're all being introduced to the crowd. That's Sebastian Szabo, the Hungarian, will be in lane 2. He's just about to come out. He's European champion, won the European Championship in this pool last year, so he's popular, lane 2. There's Thomas Chicon, an Italian that's really going places. Karen, he swam the backstroke seemingly 25 minutes ago, and he's back for more. But what a talent he is as well.
He really is, and front crawl, backstroke and butterfly underwater work is superb. It looked like he held a little bit back in that backstroke race.
Also in this final, Michael Andrew of the United States, he'll be in lane 6. So the two Americans in 5 and 6, Dressel in 5, Andrew in 6. I don't think Ben Proud should worry about Michael Andrew, though. Andrew needs a personal best to topple Ben Proud. Caleb Dressel just coming out onto the poolside now. So the question is, can he find his old form? If Dressel finds what we've seen before at World Championships and Olympic Games, he probably wins this, doesn't he? But is he in that sort of shape right here and right now? We're going to find out in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, we sure are. Ben Proud is just coming onto the poolside. He's always so calm. He hasn't even got his hat and goggles on. The other swimmers, including Caleb Dressel, sat behind the block, ready to go. He hasn't taken his tracksuit off yet. He really is good at playing those psychological mind games, and where the swimmers are waiting, he's so cool and calm and collected. He's the only swimmer that isn't yet ready. He's one of the swimmers holding back a little bit, but definitely some mind games going on here.
And listen to the crowd, they're not settling here. The organisers want quiet here, but the Hungarians, reminds me a little bit of the Brazilian crowd when we were in Rio for Nicola Pereira. Remember that? They never shut up that night, and they're still bubbling under here for this men's 50-metre fly final. Ben Proud, can he regain his World Championship, which was won in this pool 5 years ago? Caleb Dressel next to him. Listen out for Thomas Chicon, who's rapid, Michael Andrew as well, Dylan Carter of Trinidad and Tobago in lane 7, and the 42-year-old Brazilian Nicolas Santos in lane number 8. Here we go. It's going to take 22 seconds to win it. They're into the water, and Ben Proud up alongside Caleb Dressel here. Caleb Dressel, Ben Proud. Chicon over on the far side. Szabo, the Hungarian, swimming the swim of his life. Ben Proud's a little bit behind them. Down the near side, Santos is swimming really well. Santos, the 42-year-old, down the near side in lane number 8. They head to the line. Dressel won it from Santos. An amazing swim from the Brazilian. Michael Andrews third in bronze medal position, and Ben Proud, who was always struggling there, has come home only in 7th place. So disappointment for Ben Proud as Caleb Dressel is confirmed as world champion once again. Caleb Dressel wins it in 22:57. but the 42-year-old Brazilian gave him the scare of his life on the outside.
Yeah, it certainly did. Well, it wasn't a great start, not that we're used to seeing from Ben Proud. He was behind Dressel, he was behind Michael Andrew as they went into the water, and that's where he really needed to make sure he got those skills right. He didn't, and he had a glide into the wall at the end and down in 7th place. He knew with 2 strokes to go that he wasn't going to get that.
In fairness, we knew after 15 metres that he wasn't going to win, Karen. He didn't have the same electricity about his start. Dressel was clearly ahead of him when they rose, and that was game over, really.
Yeah, I think as soon as he took his first breath, he came up, he would have seen that he was down on Dressel, and you're just playing catch-up. But what a swim from Nicolas Santos. My goodness, 42 years of age. When he came out, his video that was showing actually had him showing his biceps, and it looks like for 32 of those years he'd been doing bicep press in the gym. He's really stacked.
So Dressel gold, Santos silver, Andrew bronze, so gold and bronze for America, split by the Brazilians, and Ben Proud down in 7th place, Steve. And I'm afraid the theme continues, really. There have been 1 or 2 little highlights for Great Britain, and we're not over yet for tonight, but largely the first 2 days have rung out a disappointing tone.
How on earth, though, John, does Caleb Dressel always deliver? He didn't seem in that race to me until the very end. It looked, for all the money in the world, that it was Santos in 8.
Yeah, 22.57, much slower than when Dressel won the World Championships in Gwangju, South Korea, now 3 years ago, isn't it, back in 2019. And Dressel's previous best this year was 22.79, so he's found that little bit. He's found the 2/10 that was required to just land another World Championship.
There's so many times, aren't there? I mean, we talked about it with Michael Phelps as well. The greatest swimmers, somehow in the close races, they find a way of getting their hands on the wall first. You know, the times that we just thought surely Michael Phelps is going to be beaten on this one, somehow he just gets his hands on the wall. You know, they just nail those finishes that don't mess up on the big occasion when it counts.
Fair to say, Karen, that's probably his toughest individual event, isn't it? The 50 fly, because will he be on now for 4 individual gold medals, you think, Dressel?
I don't want to say anything negative now. I mean, I thought in the 100 freestyle it looked shaky towards the end. So, you know, 100 fly, it might be feeling it in the closing stages. But, you know, I'm not going to say anything negative about him again.
Is it too early to say, with Duncan Scott missing and also Adam Peaty, that Great Britain might have their backs against the wall here a little bit? It just feels like they've missed out on a couple of medals and a couple of final spots. Or am I being too negative there?
No, I think that's certainly the vibe. You can only react to what's happened, Steve, and the fact is that, as I say, largely it's been a disappointment. I mean, there aren't many finalists so far that have come in, like Ben Proud was, the quickest into the final and finished 7th. That really shouldn't happen, should it?
No, a podium place, you know, you can understand how close it is in a stacked field, a podium place, but to not be in the race really and to be back down in 7th is really disappointing. But unfortunately, on an event like that, there is absolutely no way back if you don't nail the start.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've still got Tom Dean. He's going to be going in about 20-minute times, and of course Medley Harris goes for Great Britain in this the first semi-final of the 100 backstroke. What can we expect here, Karen Pickering?
Well, she's only 19 years of age and has been a European junior finalist back in 2019, but she's just, you know, a young swimmer breaking through, based in Swansea, and it's a great opportunity for her swimming in a 100-metre backstroke semi-final. But of course, you know, when you look at the field going in this, Regan Smith and Kylie Mass, Kira Toussaint, you know, there's a lot of big names from backstroke swimming. Regan Smith this morning, John, she looked utterly superb.
She was magnificent, wasn't she? Yeah, but this is wonderful experience for Medley Harris, who is one of 3 swimmers making their international debut for Great Britain at this particular event. Lewis Burris was one of them. Now he really shone, didn't he? So, you know, that's we've been a little bit downbeat. He shone yesterday in his relay event, so that was great news. And Medley, hopefully she can carry it on. What's interesting, Steve, about Medley is she comes out to compete here in the semi-final in lane number 6 from Swansea. Is she toppled Georgia Davis's Welsh record, which is some going, isn't it? Age 19.
Very significant milestone for her, and let's just hope she can get under 60 seconds here, put in a solid performance, and maybe giving herself a chance of getting through to that final tomorrow night. But Karen, is it fair to say that this is probably one of the most stacked events, female events, in terms of quality at this World Championships?
It is, although weirdly, Kaylee McKeown, the Olympic champion, opted not to swim. She pulled out of the heats, so that's one swimmer out the way, if you like. But with Kylie Masson and Regan Smith, swimmers who both had the world record on the 100 backstroke, it is a very talented field.
They settle down now, Steve. The lights haven't come fully up yet, and the athletes are just waiting in darkness as the auditorium quietens down. And the girls are yet to enter the pool for this backstroke semi-final. Kylie Moss, lane number 4, the Olympic silver medalist. At the second semi-final, Karen, I think it's a valid point to make, is stronger than this first one. So if Medley Harris is to make progress, I think she's got to finish top 3 as the lights come fully on. And it's quite startling, isn't it, when everything goes on and you see in crystal clarity every little bit of movement around this auditorium, and they've now been asked to take their seats again and recall.
Yep, slight technical issue there, so they sat down, but now they're back up behind the block, ready to jump into the water for their start. Molly
Renshaw's made the final of the 100-metre breaststroke, of course. That was a pleasant surprise. This, for me, would be a bigger surprise if Medley could do so.
Yep, I would agree, but certainly we've seen some swimmers not deliver in the semi-finals as we expect, so a chance for an underdog.
Medley had her first swim in a relay yesterday, and she said she loved that experience. The young swimmers, as they start this semi-final, the young swimmers have said how amazing it is. Of course, people like Medley swimming in front of big crowds for the very, very first time. She's just 19 from Swansea, and she started well. She's in the mix here, up against Kylie Moss, lane 4, who's probably the best yardstick to gauge her by. Kylie Moss, of course, swimming well, but so too is Medley. At halfway, Karen, dare we dream she's in second place?
Yeah, she is. A great turn. Good underwater work there from Medley Harris as well, and she turned in second. She came up in second as well. One lane up from her, Wan of China going well, but Medley Harris holding her off at the moment.
And lane 4 have it. This is Kylie Moss. We know how good she is, but this is a statement swim from Medley Harris. Just keep going, Medley. This last 10 metres, she's in second place. Wan of China is pressing her for second place. Does she touch second? She does. The 19-year-old from Swansea surely has secured a World Championship final position, aged just 19. The swim of her young life, and how good it is to see that.
Well, great to break the 60-second barrier there, and to get her hand on the wall ahead of the Chinese swimmer by just 0.02 of a second. We know the next semi-final is stacked. They will also have had the chance to see what Medley and the other swimmers just went in that semi-final, so they know what they've got to do, and by getting that second place, that's really important when it comes to getting a place in the final. Of course, it's about the top 8 fastest times. Doesn't matter where you finish in a semi-final.
Yeah, Steve, that was fabulous. A little fillip, and much needed too.
So I guess we can relax there a little bit. Medley should be through to the final, but we'll keep you updated on that one. And just before we move on, let's get a quick update from Sarah Mulcairns with the latest from the US Open Golf.
Yeah, we know that later on the leaders Matt Fitzpatrick and Will Zalatoris will tee off at 7:45. They're going to tee off on 4 under par, both looking for maiden majors. Some big names behind them though, Steve. Notably defending champion John Ram, he's 1 shot back. Rory McIlroy, he's 3 back on 1 under. Scoring was really tough yesterday. It's looking slightly better today. There's a few players who are under par so far early on in their rounds. The best of those, Italian Guido Migliozzi. He had got to 4 under. He's just dropped a shot on the 11, so he's 3 under for his round, still 3 over for the tournament. Some of the English players that we're looking out for, Justin Rose, he's level for his round so far through 11, but he is 5 over. Spare a thought for Tyrrell Hatton. It's not been his week, has it? Championship to forget for him. 3 over for his round after 14 holes. 12 over for the tournament. It's a tough ask, the US Open. It's always a mental and physical challenge, and we're going to have it all for you from 9 o'clock tonight.
Do you know what? If they gave you an option to play Brookline, you wouldn't bother, would you? It just looks far too hard for me.
It's so tough. I mean, the best players in the world, and you see them hitting some home shots. Bryson DeChambeau earlier today was back and forward chipping over the green. I was like, that's what I'd be doing every Sunday.
I look forward to settling down and listening into that later. Thanks, Sarah. And also following on from the action in Budapest is live commentary of the Canadian Grand Prix. Jenny Gow is live in the pit lane. It's a really mixed up grid for this one, isn't it, Jenny?
Yeah, yesterday we had almost swimming pool conditions. We've seen some really heavy rain here in Montreal this week and cold temperatures yesterday as well. It wasn't what we hoped for, it wasn't what we expected, but we got it, and that means we have a really topsy-turvy grid with some people just not being able to benefit from the drying track yesterday. Charles Leclerc, the man who's trying to chase that huge deficit now in the championship to try and catch up with the leader Max Verstappen. He's 34 points behind him now, having been 46 ahead at round 3 of this championship, and he starts on the back row of the grid after taking a new engine. So let's see how much he can fight back. We've also got Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. He had a mistake yesterday that left him in a barrier, so he's going to have to fight back as well from 13th on the grid. And out front, the old dog, well, there's life in him yet. Fernando Alonso back on the front row of the grid for the first time since Germany 2012. He'll start alongside Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton right behind him, ready to pounce. I mean, I say most races should be a thriller, but I mean it with this one. The sun's shining, flags are rippling, and we're waiting for the race to get underway.
Thanks, Jenny. Feels like you can go anywhere. And there's been another wicket in the cricket. Henry Moran is watching.
There have been 2 wickets in the cricket.
Oh, wow.
Owen Morgan, the England captain, has been dismissed for his second duck of this series, and since then we've also seen departure of Liam Livingstone for just 4. England well on course for victory, 179 for 4, need 57 runs from just shy of 15 overs.
Thank you, Henry. That's great stuff. And just early this afternoon at the swimming, FINA voted, of course, that's the world governing body. They voted in new regulations with regard to the participation of transgender swimmers in the sport. And the vote took place in an extraordinary congress in Budapest. And Karen, I think it was a couple of hours, the meeting. You were there. What happened and what are the new regulations?
Yeah, I was there, and I have to say that the overwhelming feeling from all the speeches was about how they would love to have inclusion within sport, but that inclusion and fairness do not go hand in hand in this situation. And there's been a 6-month review by FINA, and ultimately with legal experts and sports science experts and athlete reps, including Kate Campbell and Summer Sanders, both Olympic champions, the decision was made that eligibility to compete in FINA events as a woman or to set a FINA world record as a woman, it would only be open to athletes that had not gone through male puberty or had not been taking puberty blockers from the age of 12 onwards. So a big decision that was made by FINA today and voted for, not just by the Bureau. It was opened up to 190 members, 142 of them took the opportunity to vote. So it really was opened up to the wider community on such an important vote.
So the vote went through 72%, with 15% abstaining. So that was quite a sizable majority. But also in the proposals was an open competition category. So when will that come in? Do we know?
Well, the plan is that for now there'll be a men's and a women's category that are based on the eligibility I just said, but that they're setting up a working group to look at how an open category could work at some FINA events. They're hoping to get that up and running and start to get feedback from that within the next 6 months, and they are hoping to lead the way in being able to offer inclusivity to all.
Well, I'm delighted to say that someone has spoken a lot about this topic over the years, and also Olympic Games silver medalist Sharon Davis is with us to talk about this over the next few minutes. Sharon, what's your take on the new regulations?
I'm just really proud of FINA, to be honest with you, Steve. You mentioned it's been a very, very hard 4 or 5 years. 4 years ago, along with 60 other Olympic medalists, I wrote to the IOC and said, please just do the science first. And no governing body has done the science until now. And I'm very proud that that's exactly what FINA has done. You know, they've done the science, they've got the right people on board, they've spoken to the athletes, they've spoken to the coaches, who are very pro this as well, 22,000 of them, and they are withholding fair sport for females. Swimming is a wonderfully inclusive sport. You know that. We love everybody to come and swim. We love everyone to be involved in sport. But the cornerstone of sport has to be that it has to be fair, and it has to be fair for both sexes.
Where do you think this leaves transgender athletes? I mean, they are a little bit left in limbo here, aren't they, as to while they wait for this open category to be defined?
I don't know that that's really true, because we saw at the NC2As and at the Olympics last year, transgender men, so biological females, still actually competing in the female category. So, I think it's about inclusion and people feeling welcomed in their sex category, and that has done very well by women, but not done quite so well by men. So no one has ever been banned from being involved in their sport, and sport by definition is exclusionary. We don't have 15-year-old boys racing in the under 12s. We don't have heavyweight boxers in with the bantamweights. We don't have the whole reason we have lots and lots of classes in disability sport and Paralympics is so we can create fair opportunities for everybody. So that is the whole point of having classifications in sport. And the only people that were going to be losing out were females. They'd lost their right to have fair sport. So I think that's still there available, but I love the idea that FINA have got a working group and that they're trying to find ways, which is what we should have been doing. This is what we should have been talking about 5 years ago. It's taken 5 years to get to where we are now.
There's an important view here from the other perspective, so Athlete Ally and LGBTQ plus advocacy group, who organised the letter of support for Leah Thomas in February. They've condemned FINA's new policy, and they tweeted that FINA's new eligibility criteria for transgender athletes and athletes with intersex variations is discriminatory, harmful, unscientific, and not in line with 2021 IOC principles. If we truly want to protect women's sports, we must include all women. Responses to that statement, Sharon?
Well, they would say that, obviously. IOC have just decided not to even bother having a testosterone level. So basically you can self-identify into the women's category without even suppressing your testosterone. And as I said, the only people that end up losing out here are females who just don't have what male puberty gives you. So it creates an unfair level playing field. I think the general consensus is that most people believe that fair sport ought to be available to everybody, and we need to have working group as to how we try to make sport as inclusive as possible. But, I've always believed that sport is inclusive, and it still is, and nobody is not welcome at a swimming club anywhere around the world.
Well, thanks for that, Sharon. I mean, Karen, do you think for those that wanted women's sport protected, does this proposal do that?
Yes, it does. And I think one of the main things that stood out for me was that this policy was based on science, and there's a lot of talk about the science of this and the science of that, and a lot of talk about testosterone levels. But, as a woman, I can say we are not just our testosterone levels, and there's a lot of scientific data to show that even if you suppress testosterone levels, the advantage that a male having gone through puberty gets from the size of their heart, their limb length, their height, all these things are retained forever. And so that it would never be fair to have a trans woman and a female athlete competing against each other. It just cannot be fair. And the president was very clear. He said, he would love to be able to support all, and he understands that it's very difficult that some athletes will not be able to compete in the category that they identify as for their gender, and that is hard, and he would love to have been able to support that, but it is not possible to do that and protect women's sport. And he said there has to be fairness for all. He cannot favour one category above the other, and he needs to protect female sport.
FINA have obviously taken the lead on this. They're the first sport to come through with an inclusion policy. I know the IOC stated that at today's meeting, but just to take it to an example, and that of Leah Thomas that you referred to, Sharon. Leah won the 500-yard NC2A title earlier this year, and formerly a male competitor before transitioning, and she said that trans women competing in women's sport does not threaten anybody. And she told Good Morning America in a recent interview that trans women are not a threat to women's sport, but you've made the case that simply isn't true.
Well, before Leah transitioned, she was William Thomas, and she was 800th in the world. So she went from being 800th in the world to the following year transitioning and beating 3 American Olympic medalists. I don't think that's really not showing that you have an advantage. I think it's doing exactly what it shows on the tin, that there was a massive advantage, all 6'4". And I just think, that's what's probably brought this to the attention of FINA more than anything else, really, that you cannot mitigate against male puberty. That is, it's like boiling an egg. Once it's been boiled, you cannot unboil it. And it is about fairness. So if men are entitled to fair sport, I do not understand why women are not entitled to fair sport. It has to be both sets of sexes, and there are only 2 sexes, Steve. All right, there are lots of gender identities that people can identify with, and I 100% accept and support their choices to do that. But you cannot change biological sex, and that remains with you forever. And so it's about trying to find a compromise, which sadly not everyone is ever going to be happy with, but the vast majority of people are going to be happy with this, and I'm very proud that FINA have been brave enough to do it.
Do you feel, Sharon, that it's probably going to take another couple of years till we truly understand where inclusion versus fairness, where it lands, and the rules are set? Because the other day we saw the UCI, they toughened their rules, and they said that trans competitors now need to wait a couple of years before they can compete, and there was elements of max testosterone levels permitted for trans women to compete. And that means that trans cyclist Emily Bridges might not be able to compete, or might have to wait longer. But won't Olympic sports, don't they really need to define the rules? Either come down with FINA, or if on the swimming side, or adopt UCI rules. Where do you see this ending?
I think that it was always going to take one association to be very brave and to say, right, we are actually going to protect female sports, and that's what FINA has done. And now I'm hoping that will set a precedence for other sporting bodies. I think if you were a woman cyclist right now, a female cyclist, you would be very upset that your governing body was not protecting you. 2 years reduced testosterone is just not the answer. You are not going to eliminate a massive advantage. And as you and I know, we spend millions every year with WADA trying to catch people from cheating and taking small amounts of drugs to give them the tiniest advantage so that they can win medals that are won by hundredths of a second. If, let's just say, Emily Bridges has a 12 to 13% advantage, which is what in that sport between male and female performance they have, and she can reduce that by half, that still means that she has a 6% advantage going into the race before they even start. That's ridiculous. 6% wouldn't even put you in the Olympics. It probably wouldn't even put you in the national championships for your age group. So we can't afford to give that away and call it fair and meaningful competition, because it's not meaningful competition.
Shannon, thanks so much for giving up some time on your Sunday. We really appreciate your
and I'm so good to hear that the girls did well, and I'm loving listening to you guys. So thank you. Keep going.
Thank you, Sharon. Well, Karen, I suspect this is a debate that will run both in world sport, but obviously in swimming. FINA have put their policy forward, and it has almost unanimously gone through. But let's now turn our attention to some of the live sport that we got coming up. We got the men's 200 metres freestyle, and we're better spot than Tom Dean. It's all right having an Olympic gold medalist in your back pocket to roll out, isn't it?
Yes, Steve, he goes next in this first semi-final of the men's 200-metre freestyle, the Olympic champion. That'll be never taken away from Tom Dean. He'll go in lane 5 in this first semi-final. Looking forward greatly to seeing him in a few moments' time. Steve, can I just update you with some more good news, please?
Yes, please.
From the women's 100-metre backstroke. We heard Medley Hayes finish second in her semi-final. We made the judgment there that she would make the final. She has comfortably. She's age 19. She is the 5th fastest through to that women's 100-metre backstroke. The final will take place tomorrow afternoon, of course. Kylie Moss, the Canadian, and the American Reagan Smith are on semi-final times, miles clear. But Medley Hayes, the 5th fastest through. Imagine that, your first international championship as a British swimmer, and Medley Hayes has made the final, which is more than can be said for the European silver medalist Margherita Panzieri of Italy, who did not qualify. So, Steve, that's a massive, massive moment for Medley Harris.
Oh, her confidence levels would be through the roof, won't they? I mean, I wasn't sure when I saw her walking out because she looked quite nervous and timid, but her swim seemed to be the absolute opposite. I mean, that 100 backstroke is absolutely loaded. And, you know, she'll go to bed tonight dreaming of trying to pick up a medal there tomorrow, won't she? It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was great, and you know, it was right from the start. She had a really, really great start, good underwater work, and then she was just up into it. And I loved how she was in the mix the whole way down that race. She finished strong. It was solid from start to finish from Medley.
You know, one of my highlights from the Olympics last year, gang, was watching Tom Dean's family party in their back garden after he won that Olympic gold medal. I don't think anybody in the country, apart from Tom Dean and his close circle of friends, thought that he could win that Olympic gold medal. But he pulled it out the bag, and boy did his family party. They were infamous after that, weren't they?
Yeah, great scenes. Tom said, Steve, after that he spent quite a few months, actually, every time he left the house, greeting well-wishers, getting stopped in the street, which is a marvellous thing, and he's taken it all in his stride. But now it's back to business as he comes out onto the pool deck as Olympic champion. He's got to make his way through to the final of this 200-metre freestyle World Championship, which, and I don't want to put a downer on the event again, Karen, but Matt Richards spectacularly failed to do earlier on. He's not a part of this semi-final, and there are massive questions now on the 4x200 team with Matt in that sort of poor form.
Yeah, it's a real shame. He swam well in the 4x100 team, but they said that leading up to these championships he'd had a very up and down preparation, and the 100 went well, the 200 he just didn't have the pace. He looked sluggish the whole way through. It looked like it really, really hurt the whole way through, and I think when you dive into a race and you know you just haven't got it and you're just trying to get through it, it's a painful way to do the race. Whereas Tom Dean looked experienced, he looked like he knew exactly what he wanted to do and exactly how much energy he wanted to exert. But there are some good swimmers in this race, aren't there, John?
Of course, yeah, this semi-final and the one to follow on in this semi-final. I suppose this week the principal opponent to Tom Dean is going to be the Australian in lane number 3, Elijah Winnington, who yesterday won the 400-metre event for Australia. But can he match the Olympic champion Tom Dean here? So Tom's in lane 5, he starts off. Winnington's in lane 3. Between them is a young Korean, Sunwoo Hwang. He's in lane number 4. Danas Rapsis from Lithuania, a very, very good swimmer. He's in lane number 6 as well. Hard to see any of the others towards the outside of the pool making a massive impact on this semi-final. Tom Dean, with now 75 metres of the 200 behind him, is going well, right in the middle of the pool. He spoke to you after qualification heats, Karen, and you were full of hope that he could deliver a good performance, and at halfway he's looking very impressive.
Well, he's taken this race out surprisingly quickly for someone who's known for finishing strong. He's really messing with these swimmers' heads. He leads at the halfway mark, 50.43, but we know he's got some added pace after that superb ankle leg on the relay, and now he really is dominating. But it's up to him now how much he wants to pull away, how much effort he wants to put into it. He is well in control of this semi-final.
And coming now down towards the final turn, so he leads by nearly half a metre. Wang is coming back at him. Winnington is a body length behind Tom Dean. He'll turn in third place, and this is the final 50 metres. Dean's lead over this semi-final field is 0.6 of a second. Wang clearly chasing him hard in second place, and Winnington remains in third. Not much really coming from Danas Rapsis. Tom Dean, now either he's getting a bit tired or he's just easing up as the wall comes up. He's going to touch, I think, just alongside Wang. They touch virtually together. Wang actually just got the touch ahead of Tom Dean. So that's the question. Winnington was third, by the way. Tom Dean's through to the final, no doubt about that. But was he easing, Karen, or was he looking tired?
He was absolutely playing with them, John. He was so in control of that race. That was a superb swim to the 100-metre mark. Like I said, for someone who is better known for finishing strong, and he's got the likes of Elijah Winnington, the gold medalist in the 400, knowing that he would be able to finish strong, he just played with them on that last 50. He was breathing to his right. He could see any danger. He just played.
His time, Steve, was 1:45.48, just over a second slower than becoming Olympic champion in Tokyo. Karen's right, though. That looked very easy for him. There's stacks left, Steve.
Did it look like he was getting his Lilo and beach towel out on the last 25 there, or what do you
Looks like
reckon?
he was joining his family for a party in the last 10 metres.
Do you know, it's starting to get very exciting, isn't it? When you watched him in that 4x100 freestyle relay last night, and he went 46.1, which is just incredibly fast. He could do it, couldn't he, Karen? He could win it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, there are some great swimmers in it. We've got Fernando Scheffer, the bronze medalist, behind the two British swimmers in that Olympic Games, the 24-year-old from Brazil, and also the youngster that I love watching him swim, David Popovici, the 17-year-old from Romania. A beautiful, long, old school style of swimming freestyle. It's not about the power, all about the efficiency. He's coming up in the next semi-final. He'll be in lane 4 of that one. So there are some really talented swimmers, but the way he just dominated that semi-final really excites me.
Steve, as well, can I just add just a little bit about his body language out of the pool, Tom, because he's walking into the mix zone, which is directly behind us. He's had a look across to the British team who are across the opposite side of the pool, and he gave them a thumbs up, a double thumbs up, and when he turned his head back towards us, there was a big smile on his face. I think Tom Dean is in a good place.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm just thinking about his family and whether they're going to organise an impromptu garden party for 5 o'clock tomorrow night and get that big screen up again, because it worked for them last time. I think they should probably go with the same methodology, shouldn't they?
I think they only do through the night parties, judging from last year, Steve.
Be good to see. So who could threaten from this second semi-final? Who, you know, Tom absolutely dominated there. Who should we have an eye out on here?
Well, David Popovici, who I mentioned just a moment ago, but also Fernando Scheffer, as I said, who was the bronze medalist from the Olympic Games, and Lucas Martins, the 20-year-old German. He's had a really great season so far. So there are some talented swimmers coming up. It's going to make for an exciting final, isn't it? Because they all have very different ways of swimming the race. We've got some 400 specialists who'll be finishing strong. You've got some swimmers who are better known for the shorter distance, like Popovici, who's a 100-metre swimmer as well, who'll try and take the race on. It always makes for, you know, when the tactics are so exciting to see what everyone does.
Yeah.
That's why I loved what Tom did just then. Definitely.
I'd just point out, Steve, just purely from times this year, 3 swimmers in this second semi-final who have just gone quicker this year than Tom Dean has just gone in his first semi-final. They're Popovici, who Karen has mentioned, Kieran Smith for the United States in lane number 7, he's gone quicker, and Drew Kibler as well from the United States in lane number 3. He has gone quicker than Dean has just gone. So just setting that out there. Lucas Martins from Germany is very, very useful swimmer as well. He's got Olympic experience and has already swum really well, winning the silver medal in the 400-metre event behind Elisha Whittington. So there are some names: Kibler, Popovici, Martins and Kieran Smith. We've not really mentioned Felix Obok either, who's in lane 5 here, Karen.
No, he tends to feature in the last sort of 20 metres of the race normally, doesn't he? He comes back so strong, but it's quite often a little bit out of it at the beginning. But we'll see if he can get in the mix earlier on.
Indeed, Obok probably wants a longer distance here. He was 4th in the 400 yesterday. So, lane 1, Di Tullio of Italy. Lane 2, Fernando Scheffer of Brazil. Remember, he was the bronze medalist behind Tom Dean and Duncan Scott at the Olympic Games. So we'll watch him closely. They're into the water. Drew Kibler in lane 3 for the United States. Popovici's gone out very quickly, Popovici. Lane number 4. Felix Obok surely going to get outpaced in these early stages. He's lane 5. In lane 6, the young German, Lucas Martins. Kieran Smith, who is the 2nd fastest man in the world so far coming into the championships this year. He's lane 7. And then Roman Michukov down the outside, who swims for Switzerland. He's in lane number 8. Popovici, he's just trying to do a Tom Dean and burn them all off early.
Yeah, no surprise. Of course, he is a very good 100-metre freestyler, and he's showing his pace in the early stages of this 200. Fernando Scheffer going well as well. He too a swimmer that likes to take the races on and hang on. But 50.24 from Popovici, well clear at the halfway.
52.4 then, Popovici clear. In behind, there's 3 in line: Scheffer, Kibler and Smith. So the 2 Americans are poised now to launch their challenge. Felix Obok still a little bit behind him, isn't he? And so too is Lucas Martins. They don't look at the moment as though they can muster a challenge. Popovici is looking every bit as good as Tom Dean at this stage. Just one length of the pool to go, Karen.
Yeah, he's breathing to his right. He can see how Fernando Schaefer is doing. The two Americans are trying to come back at him, as is Lucas Martins, the German swimmer as well. But Popovici is still dominant in the middle lane.
Remember, Tom Dean went 1:45.48, eased down. Popovici is keeping going a metre or maybe more than that clear of this second semi-final field, and he wins in 1:44.4. He's gone a second quicker than Tom Dean, and there's your threat for tomorrow. The 17-year-old from Romania, David Popovici, has just made a big statement there, and that will certainly give Tom Dean something to think about.
Well, it was a personal best time there from David Popovici, and a world junior record, because he is still only 17 years of age, but he didn't ease back like Tom Dean is, and that's going to make for a really exciting race, because they've both got that opening speed, and it's going to be who can hang on in those closing stages. So I'm excited already for that final.
Steve, a world junior record there, 1:44.4 for Popovici. Just to put that into some sort of context, that would have given him the bronze medal behind Tom Dean at the Olympic Games. Tom Dean in Tokyo went 2/10 quicker than that to beat Duncan Scott and Fernando Schaefer. So whilst Popovici is going to be a threat, Tom Dean still the man to beat in tomorrow's final.
Karen, you know what I like about you is you can't half spot an up-and-coming swimmer. You were talking about Popovici 2 years ago, and that is one of the most beautiful freestyle strokes I've ever seen. But it actually looks, he was looking so confident when he finished. He could probably go 1:43 tomorrow night.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, the thing I love about him, he's a real throwback. His style of swimming, over the past few years, it's been so much about power, getting out hard, the big guys, massive shoulders, and he comes in and he's quite slight and a little bit smaller, and he's a real throwback to, Alexander Popov, one of the greats of freestyle swimming from the early 90s, and I think that's why I like watching him swim. I feel like I'm going back to my youth, watching that style of swimming from him. But that kind of efficiency in the water, it really does allow you to make some great improvements with almost a small amount of effort, because he's just so very, very efficient when he swims.
Thanks, Karen. Let's get a cricket update with Henry Moran.
England cruising towards victory. They're 219 for 4, requiring just 17 runs from 47 balls. Out there in the middle, David Milan has played nicely for 31 runs. Moeen Ali's on 27, and England heading towards an unassailable 2-0 series lead.
Thanks, Henry. Looking good for England there. How many more races left at the swimming tonight, John?
Oh, we've just got the final event now to come, the women's individual medley final. Looking forward to that very much. Leah Hayes and Alex Walsh of the United States go there against the European champion Anastasia Gorbenko and Katinka Hosszu at what's surely going to be her final big event here. The 33-year-old Hungarian, she's absolutely certain to get a raucous reception in just a few seconds' time. Just one thing, just an odd thing that happened earlier on. I know we were doing other things at the time, but the second semi-final of the women's 100-meter backstroke. Remember, Karen, there was a delay to a previous race, the previous semi-final. Well, during the running of the second semi-final, the lighting in here went haywire. It went dark light, as if there was an electric problem, and Regan Smith dominated that semi-final. She would have been looking right up at the ceiling where all the lights are going flashing off. How distracting would that have been for her?
I mean, you think it probably would have been. It would have been a strange thing. I mean, the backstroke swimmers are notorious for being distracted by sunlight and, how difficult it is to swim in an open air pool. So I'm sure that would have had, she certainly would have been aware of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's an odd one, and hopefully they can rectify it as the week goes on. There's always some little gremlin that gets into the system somewhere, be it that computer systems, lighting systems, starting systems, timing systems, and that's hopefully the last of the gremlins we'll see. So this lineup for the women's 200 individual medley, the swimmers are coming out. Lane 1 is Rika Omoto of Japan. Lane 2 is Seyum Kim of Korea. Lane 3 is Kaylee McEwen. What a great swimmer Kaylee is, of course, for Australia. She won gold in the 100-metre back at the Olympic Games, and she doubled up in the 200. Committing to the medley here, she's in lane 3. Alex Walsh and Leah Hayes, the two smart young Americans, lanes 4 and 5. Mary Sophie Harvey of Canada is in lane 6. Gorbenko, the European champion, let's not forget, for Israel, she's only 18, still improvement to come from her. And Katinka Hosu is in lane number 8. What do you make of this final then, Karen?
Well, Alex Walsh is the girl to beat, the silver medalist from the Olympic Games, and she looked fantastic in the heats and the semi-final, so I think she's going to be tough to beat. But interesting that Kaylee McEwen pulled out of the backstroke, the 100 metres backstroke, to focus on this medley. I was just chuckling at Katinka Hosu. She's changed her video. She obviously didn't like the one she had up there before, and she's got a new one where she's like dry hair, makeup, looking much more glamorous. So I think she walked out and thought, no, I'm not having that, I'm doing another one.
Well, all the noise you can hear is for her, obviously. Katinka Hosu, what a repertoire of achievement. She has won the last 3 World Championships. She is still the world record holder in this event from Kazan back in 2015, now aged 33, at what is surely her final major championships in front of her home crowd. I know she's talked about her ambitions to become a mum. That, hopefully for her, will go well in the near future. But she's here in lane 8 as they settle down for this, the final event of the night. The women's 200-metre individual medley final. It's the most compelling event to watch, Karen, because of course they go through all the strokes here, all 4 strokes used, starting with butterfly. And look how hard Hosu's gone out. She wants to make the most of every second of this.
Yeah, she does, and she's a very strong butterfly swimmer, so no surprise to see her try and make the most of that. Alex Walsh, she really doesn't have a weak stroke, but expect to see Kaylee McEwen, the backstroke specialist, really come through on this second 50.
Yeah, Alex Walsh leads at the first 50. Omoto and Kim second and third. Hosu's back in 8th place here, and now we focus on Kaylee McEwen, lane number 3 for Australia. She needs to catch up though, because ahead of her, after a brilliant fly leg, Alex Walsh still in front. McEwen not really making massive inroads into that lead, which is a body length now. This is special from Alex Walsh at halfway.
Certainly is, and Alex Walsh is a good breaststroke swimmer. Kaylee McEwen, she's solid through all her strokes and a good freestyler, but it is Alex Walsh who's really dominating this field. A body length clear now.
She was the silver medalist in the Olympic Games, Alex Walsh, behind Ohashi of Japan at a home games. Ohashi stepped forward, not here in this final though, and the stage seems to be set for Alex Walsh to become world champion. It's going to take something extraordinary to stop her. A turn to go. She's 2 meters clear of Kaylee McEwen, and the 16-year-old American Leah Hayes also there in 3rd place. Another little gap to Omoto of Japan, who's in 4th place. But a celebratory final lap of the pool here for Alex Walsh. Karen Pickering, this has been nothing short of a sensational dominant swim.
It really has. She's looking wonderful in the middle of the pool. The battle for the silver medal between McEwen and Hayes, but Walsh looking supreme. Alex
Walsh, that's a magnificent job done. Alex Walsh is our world champion. She touches in a time of 2:07.13, and she has beaten Kaylee McEwen of Australia, who gets the silver medal, and Leah Hayes of America in the bronze medal position. Katinka Hosu eventually finishes in 7th place. But Hosu finishes in her career. Alex Walsh looking every bit as dominant there as Katinka Hosu was in her prime.
Yeah, she sure does. And you think if she had a little bit more to push her, that she would be challenging for Katinka Hossu's world record, a 2:06.1. That is a world junior record for Leah Hayes, the 16-year-old American who took the bronze medal there. So great to see some of the youngsters. That's the second world junior record we've seen in this session. So some young swimmers coming through.
Yeah, and that ends the session. Steve, largely a pretty good night. James Wheelby couldn't quite do it. Ben Proud, of course, disappointing. But there's some promise to come, isn't there, from what we've seen in the pool. Molly Renshaw, Medi Harris, and Tom Dean, of course, in top form.
Yeah, thanks so much, John, of course, to yourself and world champion Karen Pickering. Excellent commentary there tonight. We do have some mouth-watering prospects to look forward to on Monday night. And just some breaking news before we go.